Okay, so now we're looking at the final section, which is teaching and learning strategies. In my opinion, the most important one of them all, because there's no point in having a great lesson plan and being really safe if you don't actually teach people anything. So let's read through this, and I'm going to go through the sections. This is a big section, the biggest of them all, and in this section you can get 8 different marks, eight boxes to mark. So it's really important you get this one correct, as all the others are as well, but this is the biggest one you get the most points on. So it says, the important thing to remember when considering teaching and learning styles is that it is not just about coaching, it's about client-centered learning. Our judgment should be about whether the ADI can help the people to learn in an active way. Also remember, instruction based around the core competencies used currently is pretty good. We must not throw that away. We are trying to increase the options available to an ADI. Coaching is a powerful extension of the range of options. It is not an automatic replacement for any of the existing ones. This is a really important paragraph. This is the DVSA saying that yes, things are changing. Yes, there's client-centered learning, but don't get rid of all your old skills. Don't go and throw away all the things you did in the past, like your level of instruction, your fault fixing, fault finding, remedial action. All of those things are still very important. And I like this paragraph. It tells instructors, you don't have to do anything that differently. You don't have to even coach on a standards check. You can do the old-fashioned instruction and do very well. That's what it says. We must not throw that away. We are trying to increase the options available to an ADI, so they're not scrapping all the old things and get rid of them. This is an extension. There will be many times when it's useful to use a coaching technique. The principle that underpins coaching is that engaged people is likely to achieve a higher level of understanding, and that self-directed solutions will seem far more relevant. As we just said previously in the last part, if the learning comes from the people, it's better. This applies in every situation, including instruction. Direct instruction is useful in helping a people in the early stages cope with new situations or supporting a people who is clearly struggling in a certain situation. Good coaching will use the correct technique at the correct time, matching the pupil's needs. In some cases, the ADI may need to give direct instruction through a particularly difficult situation. That instruction forms part of a coaching process. If the ADI then encourages the pupil to analyse the problem and take responsibility for learning from it, a good ADI will take every opportunity to reinforce learning. So all that's saying is simply what we've said so far. The learning must come from the people. You mustn't tell them what to do so much as ask them what to do. And I've done another video again on this, but if you ask more than you tell, it's considered coaching. If you tell more than you ask, it's considered instruction. So whenever you're thinking of telling a pupil something, try asking them instead. Instead of telling them they need the left lane, so which lane, it's as obvious which lane goes left. Which lane does, if they don't answer it, they don't know. Which lane doesn't go left? Does the right one go left? Sometimes right lanes can go left on roundabouts, so he knows. So yeah, you're kind of asking more than you're telling. But let's get on to the main marking criteria. Was the teaching style suited to the pupil's learning style and current ability? The ADI should take into account all they understand about the pupil. They should recognise that different pupils will have different preferred approaches to learning, although these may only emerge fully over a number of lessons. Some pupils may be very willing to learn actively, and others may want opportunities to reflect before they make the next step in their learning. So in other words, saying all pupils are different, there isn't a one-size-fits-all. You teach like this and you do that and you go there and you do that. You've got to be universal, flexible, and your teaching style must match your pupil's preferred learning style. So for example, if you've got a pupil who likes to sit and talk a lot, some pupils get quite annoyed by that. They want to get out and practice it. Other pupils are the other way around. They hate, they can hate talking, love practice, or they can love practice. Whichever way around you want to look at it. Some people prefer to get out on the road and practice. Some people like to sit talking about it for longer. The ADI should at least be able to give evidence of their sensitivity to these issues. In a one-off session, this will probably just be best demonstrated by offering a range of options. The ADI should be able to adjust their approach if evidence emerges of a different preferred style. You probably know your pupil's style. You'll know if they want to talk. You know if they're active, if they're talkative. But you've got to plan your lesson based around that. If you've got a pupil who never speaks, they're really quiet people, there's no point asking them tons and tons of questions. That's not going to make them talk. It'll just make the lesson fall apart. And it says that here. It's impossible to force learning on a pupil. Progress is always determined by what the pupil is comfortable with. The skill is recognising when the pupil stops learning. So if what you're doing isn't working, stop doing it. You might think your methods are great, they might be great, but they may be not working for that person. Maybe you like to teach with a bit of humour. I mean, I do. Most instructors do. But you do get pupils when you try and crack a joke and they just don't seem to get it. And they never smile, they never laugh. I remember I had a pupil once. She was so serious. I got in the car, right, what are we learning today? And he's like, it was so stale and God, it was so boring teaching her. She was just so serious all the time, never laughed, never joked. You know, something funny would happen. Like I think one time this cyclist just fell off his bike because he crashed into a wall and she didn't crack her face, just dead serious the whole time. You've got to adapt to your people. So the pace of the session should be set by the pupil. On the other hand, the pupil should not be talked out of experimenting if this is within safe bounds. So try and push them into doing something new. If they're not liking it, don't do it. When coaching, the ODI should ensure that the tools used are suitable, as you just mentioned. If a question and answer technique is used, this should match the pupil's level of ability and encourage them to use a higher level of thinking to give a response. And I was just going to say what it says here, asking closed questions of people who is demonstrating a high level of ability, unless this is to check knowledge, is of little use. So if you've got a pupil who's done loads and loads of driving, and you're saying some things like, can we go? You know, yes, no answers, closed questions, or is that gap big enough? When they're clearly going to take the gap anyway, it's a complete waste of time. But you might want to ask them, if you think they're about to go, you see them creeping, and you say, you're going to go? And say, oh no, my foot just slipped on a clutch. So it can be useful to ask. On the other hand, asking open questions to a pupil of limited ability who is finding it difficult to achieve the task they have set for themselves may be very confusing. So if you've got a pupil who's brand new, they're just struggling to move off with a clutch, and you're asking them about defensive driving and lanes on roundabouts, they're not ready to handle that. So it's all about setting the level according to the pupil. And it says here, these are not hard and fast rules. The effectiveness of any question has to be assessed given the circumstances at the time. So you may ask a closed question to an experienced pupil. You may ask an open question to a new pupil. Depends what the situation is, why you're asking it, when you're asking it, you know, what's the situation. Indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include actively working to understand how they can best support the pupil's learning process. They might not achieve a full understanding in the session. It is the attempt that demonstrates competence. Really important, like I mentioned much earlier on. This video, I don't know, is about 3 hours long, but really important. You don't have to fully finish the lesson. As long as they show they understand what they're supposed to be doing, even if they don't do it properly, it's fine. You don't have to fully achieve the end goal, so long as you're making progress. And even if you don't make progress, that's fine, so long as you're doing the right things to make progress. So they may not be getting it right. It doesn't matter, so long as they're trying and you're doing all that you can. Another way you can get a good score, modifying the teaching style when or if they realise there is a need to do so, as we've already said. Modify your teaching style. Providing accurate and technically correct demonstration, instruction and information. Giving technically incorrect instruction and information is an automatic fail if that input might lead to a safety critical situation. So if a pupil's coming up to a stop sign and they've stopped and you're saying, oh go, just roll out, creep, go. It's illegal, you can't just creep over a stop sign, you must stop dead. So if you do that, you will fail instantly for giving incorrect information. If they ask you what the speed limit is and it's the 30 and you say, oh, it's 50. I knew an instructor once whose pupil failed because he was doing 40 on a dual carriageway, and when the examiner said to him, your pupil was doing 40 on a dual carriageway, the instructor said, well, it's a dual carriageway, must be 40. And the examiner said, what do you mean? He said, well, all dual carriageways have a minimum speed of 40. No, they don't. Time for a standards check for that instructor. I think he'd be teaching for years, and he'd be teaching all of his pupils that every time you see a dual carriageway, it's automatically at 40 minimum. Wrong. Using practical examples and other similar tools to provide different ways of looking at a particular subject. So again, you might give an example of why you can't creep up to a stop sign because you can't see. You might describe how they can see you before you can see them. Look at things in a different way, so if the pupil's not understanding it, coming at it from a different angle, there's no point in keep sounding over and over because they're not going to get it. Where were we now? Linking learning in theory to learning in practice. So simply you might say, do you remember when we pulled up, we spoke about how you've got to stop at a stop sign? Oh yeah. So you're talking about what you've spoken about before in theory. Now you're actually practicing it. Quite simple. Encouraging and helping the pupil to take ownership of the learning process. As we said before, learning should come from the pupil. Responding to faults in a timely manner. As we said before, a lot of these things are linked together. Don't leave it too late, as we said in the previous part of the video. Providing enough uninterrupted time to practice new skills. As we said before, letting the pupil develop the skills while not talking. Providing the pupil with clear guidance about how they might practice outside the session. So they might say, I've got my own car, what can I do to practice? You say, we'll go out with your parents, there's a stop sign down there, there's a stop sign down there. Just practice stopping at them before the line so you can still see. Indications of lack of competence include adopting a teaching style clearly at odds with the pupil's learning style. So you're trying to teach someone who wants to talk a lot, and you're talk like a theoretical pupil who likes to pull over and talk about things. You're not using any diagrams, you're not pulling over and talking about them, you're trying to do it all on the move. It doesn't suit what they want. Failing to check with the pupil whether the approach you're taking is acceptable. So you choose how you're going to do the lesson, you choose how you're going to talk to them, the level of instruction, but you haven't even asked the pupil what they think about that. Failing to explore other ways of addressing a particular learning point. As we said before, if the pupil's not getting it, change your method, change your words, use different examples. Don't just keep banging your head against a brick wall. Concentrating on delivering teaching tools rather than looking for learning outcomes. Really important on this. You may have heard about a particular tool like scaling or mind mapping, and you try and use it even though it's not suitable, not needed, and you try and say to the people, so out of 10, how do you think that's going? Next junction out of 10, how's that going? Next junction out of 10, how's that going? And you're trying to use a tool for the sake of using the tool, but you're not concentrating on actually teaching the people what to do. Ignoring safety issues, as we said previously, risk management. If you ignore safety issues, then you'll fail. So, next, was the pupil encouraged to analyse problems and take responsibility for the learning? Again, as we've already said, the pupil should be at the centre of everything. A key part of the client-centred approach is development of active problem solving in the pupil. This means that the ADI has to provide time for this to happen and has to stop talking for long enough for the pupil to do the work. As we've already said, see a lot of these things all linked together. So you get the idea already. If you do well on one of these areas, the others will follow. If you do badly in one of these areas, the others will follow and they'll go badly as well. The key thing to remember, however, is that different pupils respond to this invitation in different ways. Some may be able to do it instantly in a discussion. Others may need to go away and reflect on a particular problem. They may need to be pointed at readings, books, or other inputs to help them get a handle on the issue. Pushing a pupil to come up with answers on the spot may be unproductive for some. So you've got to ask them what they want to do, or not what they want to do, you've got to ask them what skill they want to learn. But if they can't answer, then help them. This is what I said before about there's nothing wrong with not fixing it, but saying to the people, look, at the start of this lesson when the examiner's in the back, I'm going to ask you what you'd like to work on today. So have a think about that and let me know in a few minutes. If they can't come up with anything, you can help them out. Tell them what they need to say. You're not giving them the answer, you're just helping them to think of what they need to work on. Indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include, and you've already noticed by now, whenever I read these bullet points, if you're looking at this with the bullet points, the first ones are the things you need to do well, second ones are the things you don't want to do. So things you should be doing: providing time in a suitable location to explore any problems or issues that arose during the lesson or were raised by the pupil. Again, we've already been over that. Providing timely opportunities for analysis promptly in the case of risk critical incidents. Again, already been over this. Taking time and using suitable techniques to understand any problems that people had with understanding an issue. So it's all the same thing. Many of these things are very, very similar. But the difference with this one, for example, it's saying, was the pupil encouraged to analyse problems? Whereas the previous one was the teaching style suited? So you've got to get the right kind of style, but also get the people involved in that style. So you might be talking to them a lot, but also asking them the odd question. Or you might be not saying much at all, but not saying much in terms of instruction, not telling them what to do, but asking lots of questions about what they're going to do. So they're very similar, but there is a slight difference because you can seem like all this is the same. And in some ways it is, but we're looking now at how the pupil analyses their own problems rather than the level of instruction that you're using. So where were we? Yep, so suggesting suitable strategies. We've done that one. Just got to find where it was again, sorry. Yep, so like we said about pointing the pupil to further reading, suggesting suitable strategies to help the pupil develop their understanding, such as using practical examples or pointing them at further reading. So if they don't get how to do, for example, crossroads, it's good to go and point them to the highway code, talk about offside to offside, near side to near side, the way your car passes around the back, around the front, and go and point them to the highway code, have a look in there. Giving clear and accurate information to fill gaps in the pupil's knowledge or understanding. As we said before, you must give correct information. Don't go and tell them the wrong speed limit. Leaving the pupil feeling that they had responsibility for their learning in this situation. So if the pupil comes away thinking they came up with the answer, even if really you told them, like you might say to a new pupil, which pedal do you need to make the car creep forwards? Well, it's not going to be the brake, is it? Not going to be the accelerator. And they say, oh, the clutch. You've really told them the answer because you left them no choice but the clutch pedal. But they go away feeling like they've achieved something because they did come up with the answer even though you virtually gave it to them on a plate. Indications of lack of competence include leaving the pupil feeling that the ADI was in control of the teaching process. Again, like we just said, they should be in control of it, not you. The thing is with a lot of pupils, they don't understand that because they see it as you're an instructor, I'm paying you, teach me. It's quite hard for some people to understand that the learning comes from them and not you. Failing to explore alternative ways of addressing a problem in response to evidence of different learning preferences. Again, as we said, don't just stick to the same method. Don't keep banging your head against the wall. If they're not getting it, change what you're doing. And providing unsuitable and incorrect inputs again. Giving them the wrong information, the wrong speed limits, the wrong, like you don't have to stop on a stop sign, don't tell them that. Next big section, were opportunities and examples used to clarify learning outcomes? I think this is a really important part. While training in technique is core to the learning process, it's important to reinforce this input and to link it with theory. The best way to do this is to use real-world situations during the lesson. The use of practical examples and scenarios on a lesson gives the pupil a better understanding of when, how and why to use a particular technique. This can be done, for example, by asking the pupil to think about what mirrors are important when changing direction. Now this is why I started making my videos. I've got hundreds of videos like cycling motorbikes passing us on the left, people who haven't stopped to stop signs and had massive smashes. All of these things are great examples so I can say to people, go and have a look at that video I did about, the one where the car didn't stop on a stop sign. Or do you remember on that lesson where that motorbike nearly got knocked off because that car turned right in front of them and they didn't even see the bike? So use examples. This is a thing I've done other videos about called anchors. An anchor is when you kind of take someone back. So I call it an anchor because you anchor them to that situation. So you might say, if you say something vague like, do you remember last lesson that car crashed? And the people think, oh, not really. If you say, do you remember last lesson there was that pink car on the roof with it spinning around in circles? Oh yeah, I remember that. The more obvious you make it, the easier people can remember it. But yeah, so use examples. Say, look, that car didn't stop on a stop sign. That's probably why I pulled out and had to do an emergency stop because it didn't stop in the first place. So indications that all the elements of competence in place could include using examples identified on a lesson in a suitable way and at a suitable time to confirm or reinforce understanding, as we just said. Exploring different ways to use examples to respond to differences in preferred learning styles. So what that means is the people may stubbornly think there's no point in doing the left mirror, no point ever doing that. I've checked it 1,000 times, no one's ever there. Wait till the one time there is someone there, tell them to check it, and say, now just see why you've got to check it. And they might say, oh yeah, so their preferred style is to actually see something happening. If you just tell them what could happen, they maybe won't get it. Using examples that are within the pupil's range of experience and ability to understand. So again, don't talk about things that are too complicated. Don't use motorways, for example, to someone who's never driven on a motorway. You might say check the mirrors because there could be a car from lane 3 coming into lane 2 as we're going from lane 1 to 2. They won't know what you're talking about. Recognising that some people will be able to respond instantly, while others will want to think about it. Some people need to go away and think about things to kind of, weigh it up, see what they think. Indications of lack of competence include using examples that people cannot really understand through lack of experience, as we said. Using complex examples that the pupil doesn't have the ability to respond to, as we said. Failing to give the pupil time to think through the issues and come to their own conclusion. So again, not giving them time, like asking a question, what went wrong there? We didn't check the mirror. You haven't given them any time to answer. Imposing an interpretation, so telling them what you think rather than asking what they think. Was the technical information given comprehensive, appropriate and accurate? As noted above, giving incorrect or insufficient information with the result that the safety critical situation may occur will result in an automatic fail. This is what I've already spoken about. So it says, remember that good information is accurate, relevant, timely. Failure to meet any one of those criteria, any one of these criteria, makes the others redundant. So if you tell someone something that's accurate and relevant, but you tell them after you've crashed, it's no good. If you tell someone something that's accurate and is at the right time, but you haven't even encountered that situation, it's no good. If you tell someone something that's accurate, like we just said, you can get any of those wrong, the others fall apart. Most sessions will require some technical input from the ADI to help the people solve problems or fill a gap in their knowledge. This input must be accurate and appropriate. As we just said, information given must be comprehensive when associated with a recurring weakness in the pupil's driving. Simply telling the pupil they have done something wrong is unlikely to help them overcome the problem. As we've been saying, get the people involved, get them thinking about what they're doing, don't just give them an answer. I can't read this now because it's folded over so much. So it says, any practical demonstration of technique must be clear and suitable. The people should be engaged and given the opportunity to explore their understanding of what they are being shown. Information given unnecessarily may not be helpful, for example, by continually telling the people what to do and not allowing the people an opportunity to take responsibility. Same stuff again, it's the same stuff over and over. Unclear or misleading advice should also be avoided. And it gives an example. Comments such as "you're a bit close to these parked cars" could be used to introduce coaching on a weakness, but are of little use on their own, as they are unclear. How close is a bit, and is it significant? So it's not like it says, no good saying you're a bit close to those cars. Why are they a bit close? What could happen if they get too close? How could they get further away? Give them a reference point. Get the middle of the road, the white line down the middle, in the second third of your windscreen, whatever you do. I say to my pupils, the white line in the middle should normally be in the bottom right corner of your windscreen. When you go around a parked car, it's probably in the middle of the windscreen. So, you've got to use these coaching techniques. Maybe ask two people why they're getting so close. They might say, I don't think I was that close. Go into it in depth. It's all pretty obvious stuff. This is all things that most instructors will know from the past, but you must go over everything in great detail. You can't just say, you're a bit close, or that was a bit fast. Why, how, where, when, what was the effect it had? How could you affect other people? What can you do better? Why didn't you do it better? What made you do it that way? You always remember those questions: how, what, why, where, when. Try and answer all of those, and you'll have got a good answer. Indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include giving clear, timely, and technically accurate demonstrations or explanations, checking understanding, and if necessary, repeating the demonstration or explanation, finding a different way to demonstrate or explain if the people still do not understand. As we've already said, you've simply got to get it clear, timely, and accurate. any one of those three goes off, it's no good. As you've already said before, you've got to come up with a way that people can understand. So it's the same things over and over, but before we're talking about learning something, here we're talking about a dangerous situation. So it's all the same stuff. You find with the standards check and teaching in general, if you do one thing well, the others will fall in place. If you do one thing wrong, the others will fall out of place as well. Indications of lack of competence include providing inaccurate or unclear information too late or too early in the learning process. So, as we've already said, giving the wrong level of instruction. Failing to check understanding, so you give them the answer, but you don't actually ask them for their thoughts on it. So you might think, I've had this a lot, they're getting too close to a parked car, but they just don't think they are, and you keep saying you're too close. You need to give them a reference point. It's no good just saying you're too close. You need to check why they're doing it. They might say, well, I thought I was a long way away, or I've been told to do that by my last instructor or whatever. Failing to explore alternative ways of presenting information where the people does not understand the first offering. Again, say them again. If they don't get what you're saying, change it up. So if you're saying to them, get wider, some people think wider means go left. If they're not getting wider, say move right, move away from the car. Change the words you're using to achieve the desired result. Was the people given appropriate and timely feedback during the session? Feedback is an essential part of learning, but the process must be balanced. The people need to have a clear picture of how they're doing against their learning objectives throughout the lesson. They should be encouraged when performing well and coached when a problem or learning opportunity occurs. However, a constant stream of words, however technically accurate, given a suitable time, may be demotivating or actually dangerous. As we said earlier on in the last section, if you're talking to them all the time non-stop, you're going to distract the people. Sitting quietly and saying nothing can also be a very powerful form of feedback in some situations. As we've said before, getting all these things tied together, if you don't speak much, the people's doing well, assuming that you're not just saying much and you should be. All feedback should be relevant, positive and honest. It's not helpful if the people is giving unrealistic feedback which creates a false sense of their own ability. So don't say, you're doing really well, you're doing great, when they're not. Be honest, but be positive. You don't just need to say, oh, you're rubbish. So, well, how could that be better? So you always put a positive spin on things. Where possible, feedback should not be negative, as we just said. Rather than saying somebody has a weakness, consider expressing it as a learning opportunity. So you don't just say, oh, you're rubbish, you got that wrong, didn't you? Say, how could you do that better? How could we make it safer? So, you always put a positive spin. It does sound like this next part. However, if they need to be told something is wrong or dangerous, there is no point waffling. So, if they've nearly killed someone, tell them. No point dancing around the issue. I like that sentence. If they need to be told something is wrong or dangerous, there is no point waffling. The people should have a realistic sense of their own performance. Feedback is a two-way street. It should ideally be promoted by the people, with the ADI responding to the people's questions or comments. So you don't talk at the people, you don't just let the people talk to you and don't respond. It's a two-way thing. The people's feedback should never be overlooked or disregarded. So even if they get it wrong, if they say, oh no, I wasn't too close to those parked cars, I was fine, you can't just say, okay then. You've got to think why they're saying that. Don't just disregard it, look into it. And again, here we go, indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include providing feedback in response to questions from the people. As we said, answer the questions, don't just let them ask you a question and not answer it. Seeking appropriate opportunities to provide feedback that reinforces understanding or confirms achievement of learning objectives. So in other words, look for chances to give the people, say, okay, at the start of the lesson, you were nearly hitting parked cars. You've got better for the last 15 minutes. Try this one on your own. So you're giving them the chance to do it on their own. So, last couple of pages here. Providing feedback about failure to achieve learning objectives that helps the people achieve an understanding of what they need to improve. So tell them what they did that was so bad. Why did it go so wrong? Tell them exactly what they did wrong. You don't have to be negative. Just say, this way you did wrong. You didn't brake hard enough. Very common one that. People don't brake hard enough. They enter situations too quickly. And because they're not braking hard enough, then it all goes wrong. Providing feedback that the people can understand. Yeah, we've been through all this before. Providing consistent feedback that is reinforced by body language. So it's no good saying, "Oh, you're doing great, when you're looking like they're doing terrible." So look at them, yeah, you're doing great, you're doing really well, I like that, I'm enjoying this. Indications of lack of confidence include providing feedback a long time after an incident so that people cannot link the feedback to what happened. Already said that. Providing feedback that overlooks a safety critical incident. Don't just say, "Oh, it was that bloke's fault. Oh, he's rubbish. He nearly crashed into us. That's his fault. Nothing we could have done better." You can always have done something differently in any situation, even if it wasn't your fault. Continuously providing feedback when it's maybe distracting the people. Again, don't just talk non-stop. Failing to check the people's understanding of feedback. So you tell them what they should have done, but you don't check if they've understood it by asking questions of who, why, where, when. Providing feedback that is irrelevant to the people's learning objectives. For example, commenting on their personal appearance. This one you have to be careful of. It's quite strange the way they've put that in here because it's kind of the wrong section for it. But you can't just say, for example, "Oh yeah, you did that really well because you've got great legs. I really like your legs, they look great. So that's why your clutch control is really good." It doesn't match up at all, does it? Refusing to hear reasonable feedback about the ADI's own performance. If the pupil says, "Oh, I think you should have helped me more there," and you say, "No, I shouldn't. I'm an instructor, I know what I'm doing. Shut up, you're the pupil." They might have a good point. There's times when the people said to me, "Oh, next time, can you help me out a bit more there?" And you think, "Oh, I didn't help him enough there." It's quite handy to be able to take criticism from a pupil because I get it wrong, we all get it wrong. And if you say you don't, well, you're probably just missing all the mistakes you're making. There's 2 more I think to go over. Let's just check. 3 more. Were the pupil's queries followed up and answered? Direct questions or queries from the pupil should be dealt with as soon as possible. The response may involve providing information or directing the pupil to a suitable source. Again, you might say, "Go and read this book, go and look at that book, whatever. Go and watch my videos." That's what I do. Remember that wherever possible, the pupil should be encouraged to discover answers themselves, as we said before. However, if the ADI does need to provide information, they must ensure that the pupil completely understands the information given. Again, it all ties in together. These boxes are all linked. If you do the last 3 or 4 we mentioned well, this will go well. If you don't, it all goes wrong. If you're asking the pupil questions, involving them, they're coming up with the answers, all these boxes will tick themselves. If you're not asking questions about the people, they will all go wrong. So where was I? Pupils may not always have the confidence to ask direct questions. The ADI should be able to pick up comments or body language that indicates uncertainty or confusion and use suitable techniques to explore possible issues. Again, body language, you've already been over that. Indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include responding openly and readily to queries, providing helpful answers or directing the pupil to suitable sources of information. Again, send them to watch my videos if you want. Actively checking with pupils if their comments or body language suggest they may have a question. So if they're kind of like this, what did you want to ask? Nothing. I can tell you want to ask something, so just ask it. And they'll ask you a question. You must encourage them to ask. A lot of pupils are quite scared on lessons, they're quite nervy, and they don't really want to ask you, so they think, "Oh, he's made the lesson plan, I don't want to mess up his plan," when they actually made the plan, not you. Encouraging the pupil to explore possible solutions for themselves. Again, it's all the same. Indications of lack of competence include refusing to respond to queries, so you say, "No, not answering that. Not going to answer that." Why you do that, I don't know, but some people do. Providing inaccurate information in response to queries, getting the answer wrong. Avoiding the question or denying responsibility for answering it. So the pupil says, "Why did you need to crash into that parked car?" Nothing to do with us, I don't know. The ground's a bit wet, must have slipped. You've got to go over, you don't deny responsibility. Did the trainer maintain an appropriate, non-discriminatory manner throughout the session? The ADI should maintain an atmosphere in which the pupil feels comfortable to express their opinions. They should create an open, friendly environment for learning, regardless of the pupil's age, gender, sexual orientation, ethnic background, religion, physical abilities, or any other irrelevant factor. This implies active respect for the pupil, their values, and what constitutes appropriate behaviour in their culture. The ADI must not display inappropriate attitudes or behaviours towards other road users, and should challenge the people if they display these behaviours. So you shouldn't just say, oh, what went wrong there? Oh, it's a taxi driver, we want to tip, or taxi drivers are rubbish. I've done that more in the marking sheet video. I talked about that. You mustn't discriminate against anyone. You can't say, why did that person get it wrong? Oh, well, look at him, he's a stupid man. Look at him, he's got a massive fat nose and a big beard. Everyone with a big nose and a big beard is rubbish at driving. I know you probably wouldn't say that, but it's so easy to say, oh, van drivers, taxi drivers, oh, look, police, they're always speeding everywhere. You mustn't discriminate against anyone, especially the people or the examiner. Indications that all the elements of competence are in place could include keeping a respectful distance and not invading the people's personal space. Your hand shouldn't go over the gear stick unless there's a good reason to. There's no need to be putting your hand on the people's knee, touching the hand, stroking the hair. Yes, I've heard all these things going on. I've had, people who had an instructor. He used to let her put the belt on and he'd run his hand down the belt like that to make sure, as he said, he wasn't twisted. Yeah, well, I think you know what he was doing there. Asking the people how they wish to be addressed. Again, I mentioned this earlier on, you don't have to say, what would you like me to call you today? They already know you've been together for a long time, if you've had 30 odd hours or whatever. Asking a disabled driver to explain what the ADI needs to know about their condition. So if you've got someone, for example, who's dyslexic or they've got some kind of condition, whatever you call it, just ask them about it. How does that affect your ability to drive, to judge space? Ask them what it means. Asking, adopting an appropriate position in the car. I don't know how you could adopt an inappropriate position in the car. I don't even want to talk about that, but you must adopt an appropriate position in the car. Using language about other road users that is not derogatory and does not invite the people to collude with any discriminatory attitude, as we just said. The indications of lack of competence include invading someone's physical space, touching the people, including trying to shake hands unless it's necessary for safety reasons, using somebody's first name unless they've said this is acceptable, commenting on the people's appearance or any other personal attributes unless it has a direct impact on their ability to drive safely, such as wearing shoes that make it difficult for them to operate the vehicle's pedals. So it's fine to say to the people, oh, you've come out for this lesson in high heels, I don't think that's suitable. You wouldn't say, oh, them high heels look great, oh, you look really good in those. It's got to be appropriate. It all sounds very silly, but it does happen where, people get too pally or whatever. And the final one, end of session, was the people encouraged to reflect on their own performance? At the end of the session, the people should be encouraged to reflect on their performance and discuss their feelings with the ADI. The ADI should encourage honest self-appraisal and use client-centered techniques to highlight areas that need development if the people does not recognise them. Once development areas have been identified, the people should be encouraged to make them part of future development. So in other words, at the end of the session, look back at the lesson. What did you do? How did you go? Specifics. How did that go? How did you do the parked car situations and meeting situations? Were you wider from the cars than normal? Do you understand why that's better? What about the roundabouts? Were the lanes better? How do you feel about that? Do you feel more confident now? So there we go. I hope you've enjoyed this video. It's been a very long video, the longest I've ever done. I think it's about over 3 hours long. I hope you've understood most of what I said there and most of the points that I'm trying to get across. If you haven't, please feel free to email me. There'll be an email address on the screen with these videos. It's very hard to sit and talk to a camera like this without getting any feedback. And this is what this is all about. If I have no feedback from you, I don't know how I'm doing. So if you were sitting with me here now in the room, it's easier to talk about these points. So if you want to go over any of these points, please contact me. But I hope that's helped you understand the way examiners are taught to mark instructors on standards checks. So there will be many other videos on my site. Have a look out for the ones about levels of instruction, body language. They may not all be available right now, but please go and have a look at those. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to get in touch if you want me to clarify any points.